Apostolic Exhortation of Pope Leo XIV, DILEXI, I have loved you, following number 71. Many female congregations were protagonists of this pedagogical revolution. Founded in the 18th and 19th centuries, the Ursulines, the Sisters of the Company of Mary Our Lady, the Maestre Pie, and many others stepped into the spaces where the state was absent. They created schools in small villages, suburbs, and working-class neighborhoods. In particular, the education of girls became a priority. The religious sisters taught literacy, evangelized, took care of practical matters of daily life, elevated their spirits through the cultivation of the arts, and above all, formed consciences. Their pedagogy was simple: closeness, patience, and gentleness. They taught by the example of their lives before teaching with words. In times of widespread illiteracy and systemic exclusion, these consecrated women were beacons of hope. Their mission was to form hearts, teach people to think, and promote dignity. By combining a life of piety and dedication to others, they fought abandonment with the tenderness of those who educate in the name of Christ. For the Christian faith, the education of the poor is not a favor, but a duty. Children have a right to knowledge as a fundamental requirement for the recognition of human dignity. Teaching them affirms their value, giving them the tools to transform their reality. Christian tradition considers knowledge a gift from God and a community responsibility. Christian education does not only form professionals, but also people open to goodness, beauty, and truth. Catholic schools, therefore, when they are faithful to their name, are places of inclusion, integral formation, and human development. By combining faith and culture, they sow the seeds of the future, honor the image of God, and build a better society. Accompanying migrants. The experience of migration accompanies the history of the people of God. Abraham sets out without knowing where he is going. Moses leads the pilgrim people through the desert. Mary and Joseph flee with the child Jesus to Egypt. Christ himself, who came to what was his own, and his people did not accept him. John chapter 1, verse 11. Lived among us as a stranger. For this reason, the Church has always recognized in migrants a living presence of the Lord, who, on the way of judgment, will say to those on his right, I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. Matthew chapter 25, verse 35. In the 19th century, when millions of Europeans emigrated in search of better living conditions, two great saints distinguished themselves in the pastoral care of migrants, Saint John Baptist Scalabrini and Saint Francis Xavier Cabrini. Scalabrini, Bishop of Piacenza, founded the missionaries of St. Charles to accompany migrants to their destinations, offering them spiritual, legal, and material assistance. He saw migrants as recipients of a new evangelization, warning of the risks of exploitation and loss of faith in a foreign land. Responding generously to the charism that the Lord had given him, Scalabrini looked forward to a world and a church without barriers, where no one was a foreigner. Saint Francis Cabrini, born in Italy and a naturalized American, was the first citizen of the United States of America to be canonized. To fulfill her mission of assisting migrants, she crossed the Atlantic several times. Armed with remarkable boldness, she started schools, hospitals, and orphanages from nothing for the masses of the poor who ventured into the New World in search of work. Not knowing the language and lacking the wherewithal to find a respectable place in American society, they were often victims of the unscrupulous. Her motherly heart, which allowed her no rest, reached out to them everywhere, in hovels, prisons, and mines. In the holy year of 1950, Pope Pius XII proclaimed her patroness of all migrants. The Church's tradition of working for and with migrants continues, and today this service is expressed in initiatives such as refugee reception centers, border missions, and the efforts of Caritas Internationalis and other institutions. Contemporary teaching clearly reaffirms this commitment. Pope Francis has recalled that the Church's mission to migrants and refugees is even broader, insisting that our response to the challenges posed by contemporary migration can be summed up in 4 verbs: welcome, protect, promote, and integrate. Yet, these verbs do not apply only to migrants and refugees. They describe the Church's mission to all those living in the existential peripheries who need to be welcomed, protected, promoted, and integrated. He also said, every human being is a child of God. He or she bears the image of Christ. We ourselves need to see and then to enable others to see that migrants and refugees do not only represent a problem to be solved, but are brothers and sisters to be welcomed, respected, and loved. They are an occasion that Providence gives us to help build a more just society, a more perfect democracy, a more united country, a more fraternal world, and a more open and evangelical Christian community. The Church, like a mother, accompanies those who are walking. Where the world sees threats, she sees children. Where walls are built, she builds bridges. She knows that her proclamation of the gospel is credible only when it is translated into gestures of closeness and welcome. And she knows that in every rejected migrant, it is Christ himself who knocks at the door of the community. At the side of the least among us, Christian holiness often flourishes in the most forgotten and wounded places of humanity. The poorest of the poor, those who lack not only material goods, but also a voice and the recognition of their dignity, have a special place in God's heart. They are the beloved of the gospel, the heirs to the kingdom. Luke chapter 6, verse 20. It is in them that Christ continues to suffer and rise again. It is in them that the Church rediscovers her call to show her most authentic self. Saint Teresa of Calcutta, canonized in 2016, has become a universal icon of charity, lived to the fullest extent in favor of the most destitute, those discarded by society. Foundress of the Missionaries of Charity, she dedicated her life to the dying, abandoned on the streets of India. She gathered the rejected, washed their wounds, and accompanied them to the moment of death with the tenderness of prayer. Her love for the poorest of the poor meant that she did not only take care of their material needs, but also proclaimed the good news of the gospel to them. Quote, "We are wanting to proclaim the good news to the poor that God loves them, that we love them, that they are somebody to us, that they too have been created by the same loving hand of God to love and to be loved. Our poor people are great people, are very lovable people. They do not need our pity and sympathy. They need our understanding love. They need our respect. They need that we treat them with dignity." All this came from a deep spirituality that saw service to the poorest as the fruit of prayer and love, the source of true peace, as Pope John Paul II reminded the pilgrims who came to Rome for her beatification. Where did Mother Teresa find the strength to place herself completely at the service of others? She found it in prayer and in the silent contemplation of Jesus Christ, his holy face, his sacred heart. She herself said as much, quote, "The fruit of silence is prayer, the fruit of prayer is faith, the fruit of faith is love, the fruit of love is service." It was prayer that filled her heart with Christ's own peace and enabled her to radiate that peace to others. Teresa did not consider herself a philanthropist or an activist, but a bride of Christ crucified, serving with total love her suffering brothers and sisters.